Yeah, because if you have to go to Edmonton for a
Right,
meeting,
we're live.
it's not gonna cost you money to go.
Yep.
Sweet. The mileage? Yeah, that's.
Okay, you ready?
I think I'm gonna put my.
Yep.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I will call the Governance and Priorities Committee meeting to order on Tuesday, April 2nd at 5 p.m. We have the agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions?
Your worship, administration would like to add, under closed session. Contractor update under VoIP section 24, advice from his officials, and section 27, privileged information.
No deletions? None. Okay, so would someone care to move Councillor Good?
Move the minutes as presented, pardon me, the agenda is presented.
So that includes the amendments then? Okay, all those in favor? It is carried. We now have the minutes of the March 4th Governance and Priorities Committee meeting in front of us. Are there any edits to those minutes that someone has noticed? Okay, would someone perhaps put forth a motion on those? Deputy Mayor?
I move that council adopt. I move that council adopt the minutes of the March 4th, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. Comments from the public? Don't have any at the moment. Okay, we have two presentations tonight, and the first one is grants to organizations presentation, Peace River Minor Football, Emily Smith and Crystal Owens. If you just want to come forward to the chairs there, press the microphone so it turns red, and you're live and presenting. Pretty good. Here's what you're gonna
So yeah, we just wanted to take the opportunity. We did put a proposal forward requesting for some funds. So the project that we're looking at doing is, if anybody's been down at the Glen Murray track, you can see that we have that old little blue shack, we call it, and that's where our food booth is as of right now. It's getting to the point where it's getting harder and harder to get our AHS approval to cook out of that shack, because it is a shack. So we do have a donation from Mainway Electrical of a building, yeah. So yeah, one of those, we used to call them like the ADCO buildings, right? The transportable ones. So we do have one of those. It needs some work. We have approval from Peace River School Division to move it to the other side of the track from where the current one is. The point with that was that with soccer being as active as it is, now we have rugby between the two school divisions using the booth. It just put it, and track and field, it just puts it in a more of a central location versus it being all the way on the one side of the football field. So we are looking at putting that and making it into a more like formal booth, like an actual kitchen in there, where we would also have two washrooms and then I guess like a locker room for our refs for the football field or for soccer, or whoever's using it at the time. In the past, soccer has used that booth. Both the school divisions, track and field, rugby has used it. So it does get a lot of use. So we would like to upgrade it to a more usable facility that we can be a little bit more active in versus just flipping burgers here and there, and that be kind of the end of it with football games. So I think the total cost of that project with our quotes, we are expecting some in-kind donations, but we're looking at about 135,000, I think, for the total cost of that. And that also includes the directional drilling of our power, because we do have our own power grid or source or whatever it's called at the current booth. And it would be covering the cost of drilling that to the new location so that we still have our own power. And then we're looking at having like, the water tank and a propane tank and then a sewage tank on the side. And then some of the costs for the renos is to make sure that the building's secure. So it's a lot of the sliding down doors to make sure that we're not attracting anybody to vandalize the building. It would also include a deck around so that people can sit by the booth and be able to see both the football and the soccer fields. So yeah, that's what our project is, and that's why we were asking for funds.
So just to clarify, what dollar amount are you asking for?
I think, well, they said the cap had to be under 5,000, so it was the like 4,999. Every penny, I'll put 99 cents on that if I can, because that's definitely a big project, so.
We've been very fortunate to have a lot of, labor and things donated so far.
Yeah.
That are, purposes and for that. So.
Yeah, and the building being stored right now, and then the transport of the building has all been covered in kind, so we are pretty lucky right now, but it's still gonna cost a lot.
Deputy Mayor?
Sorry, what blue building are you talking about? Are you still talking about the one that I used when my son was in mine?
Yeah. Yeah.
The tin roof is like falling, yeah,
Overdue.
yeah, that'd be the one, but yeah, so we definitely got a lot of use out of it, but like we have spots where we have to like cover up the floor because we're starting to get some wears, and yeah, the tin's blowing off the one side and somebody busted into it pretty bad here last summer, so we had to board up the one side of it.
And it is a source of income for the football club too,
Mhm.
so we need to, acknowledge that as well, but, and if we don't have it, then that's a loss of revenue.
Yeah.
For our
Yeah, for sure.
club as well, so.
Well, bathrooms alone would make it worth it. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
it's been a long time coming. The facilities at that field.
Yeah.
Were never great.
Yeah, no, and like the town is awesome, like they have the porta potties that are there. And I know sometimes during football season, we will bring in our own as well. But then we keep them locked, but we're still looking at vandalism. People are cutting locks, so it's an extra cost for us, right?
Just one more question. You're holding tournaments still and large events there as well with the Pioneers would be?
Yeah. And this year, this spring's actually a big year. We have our Bantam Jamborees being hosted here as well as our Pee Wee Jamboree. And so we're gonna be looking at on those 2 days alone. Bantam alone, we're gonna have 9 teams here. Pee Wee will have 5 teams, and then our Atom will have 8 teams. So yeah, like it's definitely starting to get used more and more because.
Okay, because I remember having events and not having the right facilities to hold successful events. So
Yeah,
I
it
do
just
see
costs
your
us
need.
more to have to bring it all in separately, but if we have it there and we have those bathrooms, then if it's just the one off that we have to bring in extra porta potties, then so be it, but. As of right now, even just the 1 or 2 porta potties that are there, when we got 60, 70 kids on that field at a time, it's not enough, right? Yeah.
Any other questions to clarify? Okay.
No questions, but I can give you a lot of input. Right now, so just so the public knows, I'm the certified refs for football, have been for quite a number of years. So with that being said, where the kitchen is, there's a building that is actually attached to that, which is their so-called small equipment shed, which is also our refs chamber. The only time that reffing has access to the school is if it's a Pioneers game. And the only reason why is because one of the coaches is a teacher there. So with that being said, when you have all these people from out of town, as Deputy Mayor said, the facilities just are not there.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. So the process is that this goes away for a week or 2, and then we'll have another council discussion and apply the grants to groups policy or grants to organizations policy. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
good luck with your year and
Thank you.
so on. Okay, second presentation is also grants to organizations presentation, full day. And if someone would like to come forward, all 3 of you, or however you want to do this.
Okay, sure.
And if the red light's on the microphone, it means you're live and.
Okay.
If you just say your name too for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Mark Belzil. I am a counselor on the Conseil des parents of the Francophone School in Peace River, the École des 80. And I have here with me Rachel Brochu, who's also a counselor, and Nick Deschamps. So, all right. So, as most of you know, our school just opened here in October. And in the process of building a school, we had to demolish the old playground completely. So these kids have not had a playground in this school for like 2 or 3 years now, right? So the school opened in October. We now we're in the process of demolishing the old school to make room for the playground and, you know, there'll be an area there for like a soccer field or whatever. And then we'll have a spot there too for this new playground equipment that we want to put in, right? The old playground equipment is out of date. It is not possible to put it back into service. There's a few pieces that we might be able to put back in service, like a swing that we have there, but that's about it. So we started the process, and along with the new school construction, the government grants us $250,000 for this playground equipment, right? So we're in the process right now of acquiring the rights to that money so that we can actually put a deposit on our quote here. So, and then we, the one counselor of ours, who's not here with us today, he did the RFP process, submitted that out, and then that went out in November, December, we got the quotes in. We, as a group, decided to go with one, and the company's called Parkworks. They gave us a proposal here for a total of about $349,000 before taxes. So with that, we were able to start the process of writing letters and acquiring fundraising, or, you know, asking for financial support, right? So we went out to as many businesses as we could that were within our reach. And then some of us started the process of applying for grants such as this one here. To date, we have accumulated about $38,500 of fundraised money. We still have a short deficit here of about $76,000 that we have to overcome here, right? Well, first of all, I should maybe show you the playground, the proposed playground that we kind of chose, right? Based on what we thought would be the best for our school. So quite nice and quite modern and right. So that's what we're looking at this point in time. So yeah, so with that, we are here to request what we can from the town of Peace River, right? This playground also, you have to look at it too, that it'll serve that community quite well, right? You have Baldwin Court there, that's not far, you have Norglen. In plain view, that playground will be able to be used by many kids in that area, many families, right? Not only the school. So we're here to see what the town of Peace River can do for us to help us out here, right?
And with that.
Sorry, I mean, is it an accessible playground for everyone, or is this just a normal playground? Or is it accessible like the one that Good Shepherd, I think that area is also building a playground? How does it compare to that?
That I don't know. Like, you mean accessible, like,
Wheelchair.
wheelchair accessible? Okay. If this one is or not, I would, I don't think so. No, I would say no. Sorry, yeah. But I mean, we can modify this if we have to, right?
Just a few
Yeah.
more dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
Many
More dollars probably, right? Yeah.
Other counselors?
Is that a swing in the background on your photo? On the top picture?
Well, this one here,
No, on the very top picture where
The
you.
first
scroll
picture?
from. Yeah, back in the corner there. On
Back
the
here?
right. Yeah, is that a swing?
that's like a monkey bar. As well.
Monkey bar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Almost looked like an accessible swing.
yeah. Yeah, and the ground will be like a mulch, right? So, yeah, it's not really gonna be much for accessibility there whatsoever, right? So.
Okay, so, you're essentially asking for all you can get.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I know there's a maximum. Yeah, we'd like to know what you guys would be looking for us, right? So.
So as I just explained, these all come together and will come back to council for a decision within a month, probably, give or take.
Okay.
So And so your project itself, you basically have to get more money in order to start. Is that?
Well,
what you're doing?
Once we get the approval from the government, that $250,000, we can actually put that as a deposit and start the process, right? We are still waiting on, a few more grant applications through other organizations but they won't be until like, I think it's June and July or August, some of these answers, right? And there's one to, the Francophone Association in Falher, for the Alberta, that has an office in Falher. They are looking to see what they can help us out with, right, financially. In the meantime, in order to get this rolling for us, because we need to get this going, we want to have this project in place, hopefully for the fall, for the school year. What we are looking at doing with Parkworks is, reducing the amount of pieces, right? You know, so we were potentially able to not put in all the pieces of the whole project, cut the cost, get it built, and then after that, we can pursue adding it on, right, afterwards, so, you know. It's kind of our option at this point. Another thing that we're looking at, but we're not 100% sure how that would maybe work, is maybe we as parents could get together and build one portion, like prepare the land for the site, right? So the curbs and you know, stuff like that, so that saves more money.
Mayor?
It looks like you have some different options on that playground. It doesn't look like the normal run of the mill, so is there some new exciting stuff on this one? It looks kind of like it does have something different than the usual.
The one thing that we really were attracted, I think, to this, it was this tower basically design, right, you know? And then this, also, the one thing that the kids really wanted, because I think we surveyed the kids at the school, and they were really interested in something like a climbing feature like this here. Right? So, yeah.
And the other thing is as well, is the park is gonna be in front of the school, so it's not hidden. Which I feel like it's a lot safer, so all the houses around are able to see what's going on in the park.
And utilize.
Yeah.
So,
Counselor Ford and Counselor Good?
yeah, I actually liked that idea. The sight lines, especially when you can see it from all around the area.
Yeah.
Kind of almost like a community watch program in a way.
Yeah.
But did I hear you correctly that you said the students were without a playground for 3+ years?
Yeah.
Because
Where the playground was is exactly where the majority of the construction was happening, yeah.
yeah, because it's quite important for kids of that age to get outside, especially during the summer, and get their exercise and socialize and everything.
Yeah.
Oddball question. Do you, or do the kids at least have the opportunity to skip to the other playground and use their equipment while you don't have one?
They have been, I think.
So right now, what they're doing, they're using the playground in Springfield.
Oh, good.
But they had to move, you know, the lunchtime to be able to do that. So yeah, they can go play at that park, but they go once, you know, just at lunchtime.
So they do have a little bit of an opportunity
Yes.
to get outside.
Yes,
and do
but
that.
that's due from this year.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Otherwise, they've been creative,
Oh, yeah.
took themselves and using that side.
Counselor Good?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say one thing I liked about your presentation was when a person comes to us and says, we're gonna do this to get the ball rolling, and this is what we're gonna do this, we're gonna get the ball rolling, we're gonna get it actually in progress. What it shows to me is there's a commitment to success. And that means a lot, having been in business and you have goals and you have things in mind, and your commitment shines, and just want to let you know that it's appreciated.
Yeah.
Because you're not saying we're dependent on this to have it happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
One way or another, we're going to get there, and I really like that. So, thank you.
Yeah, we're looking at the options, so.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you, and we'll be hearing from council and admin in the future.
Okay,
Good luck with the
Perfect.
project.
thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, next on our agenda, review of bylaws and policies, the council code of conduct review and revamp with Ms. Parsons.
Council. So I don't actually have a lot to present outside of the report that you received in your agenda package. This is simply just an opportunity for council to provide me any feedback or suggestions for what they'd like to see in a revised council code of conduct bylaw. This has been anticipated by council for a little while and it's on the CAO mandate letter to get reviewed. I know that one of the biggest revisions that we're looking for is around the investigation procedure and how that will work. So we're working hard on that and trying to make it a little bit more external instead of counselors investigating each other, which can get a little bit messy. So bringing in an actual external investigator and then just trying to, clean it up a little bit, make it easy to follow and giving some clear guidance. So if the council had anything else that they were hopeful to see in there, I would love to hear it.
Okay, Counselor Good.
I'm glad to see it coming back for a number of reasons. One of the main reasons I like to see it come back is that having a council code of conduct hasn't existed for that long in municipalities in Alberta. I'm not sure if I think it's 2 terms now, if I'm correct, maybe possibly 3, but not that long. And so now different councils have had experience with the code of conduct, and there's a bunch of different models that are out there. Some really, really short, really simple, some really complex, really long. And I like the idea of bringing in, that you have it here about consulting with other municipalities, and taking a look at some of their frameworks, because we should have the opportunity to learn from successes, failures, challenges, and everything else that's going on there. And also, because one thing that I did learn over the last terms is there's a lot of legalities. I mean, there's a lot of things you think, oh, I'd like to be able to do this, I'd like to be able to do that. And the answer is, yeah, but, and the answer is, well, yeah, sure, I'd like that too, but, and so along with this, I want to make sure that whatever we have is vetted by competent legal people, because it gets really, really murky and really, really involved very, very quickly if you stray into areas where you ought to not stray. So I'll just leave it at that, but I really appreciate the format that you're doing, and I'm thrilled with the opportunity to revisit it.
If I might just comment on that a little bit. So we do have a draft that has gone to a legal review. So we're working with that draft as it has gone for legal. Just have a few more questions, and then since it's gone for that review, would like to also consult just a few other municipalities bylaws, just to see some of the different practices that have come in. For example, the town of Innisfail has now a more detailed section on social media and the use of that, and they've used that example from a couple other municipalities. So I'd like to go take a look at that and see, is that detail worth putting in for us? Is that something that would be helpful? So looking at those kinds of things before we bring the final draft forward that has been legally reviewed, but we will make sure to get that consultation.
I do appreciate the expansion of the social media business, because it seems more and more it's in our lives these days. I had a couple of questions. One's under gifts and benefits. So the gifts and benefits part, as I think I read this, are being given to the counselor sort of thing. And I'm wondering, when the counselor as a counselor decides to give something, how that fits in here. I just, whatever, but I'd just like to know.
So that will be administration's intention, as well as to include a section under that gifts as of the reverse happening, where a counselor wants to give a gift or donation, and a little blurb of what that looks like. So when that draft does come forward, I'll look forward to council's feedback on how they feel about that section of the bylaw and what further detail or not that they would like to see on it.
Another topic or two in the schedules, I would like some more timelines put in there. So there can't be an instance where somebody's kind of delaying the process because they're not getting back with the response to whoever the response is due to. that kind of thing. Including what if they don't respond at all? You know, the timeline's up, carry on, like just what is to happen. And in the Schedule C, there's section 6, it talks about something being resolved informally. And I just wanted maybe a little clarification on what that might mean. And who really gets to decide. I guess the council, according to this, gets to vote. But maybe a little expansion there or not, depending what you can find out. In section 7, who's picking the third-party investigator, that kind of stuff. So those are kind of my things, but counselors, you had a chance to look at this, and now would be a good chance to bring up a question if you want. Admin to kind of look for others that do something on a particular section of this or a topic or something. Deputy Mayor?
You actually, got mine. I think the social media part and the gifts are important. For me anyway, because if you're really active, those things come up quite often. So that would be clarity on that. And I also agree with the timeline. That should, a little bit clarity around that would be great too. But good job.
Any other comments at this point in time? Councilor Ford?
I actually totally agree with that. That was something that, that I wanted to mention too. The social media is huge, and, that's something that really needs to get looked into.
Okay, and we're hoping after our last go around with one of the policies that we're more concise this time. So if you've got anything on your mind right now, bring it up, sort of thing. Otherwise, admin goes away and does their thing.
Well,
Thank you. Councilor Carr?
I did not have time to read this through completely, so I'm probably just gonna finish reading it and email you anything that comes to mind in the next day or two. If that's all right.
Thank you, Councilor Carr. This is, the one attached is the current bylaw as it stands. So, yeah, if you wanna have a read through it and just send me feedback through email of what you think you'd like to see changed from that one. And then we will have a draft bylaw, new bylaw, come forward. We won't be making revisions to the current bylaw. It won't be a red line version. There'll be too many changes and it'll be, quite restructured from this one. So you'll just have to kind of.
Great. Okay, councilors? Okay, thank you, Ms. Parsons, and we're looking forward to the next discussion. Would someone care to put forth a motion on this matter? Councilor Ford, your motion?
Move that council. There, now it's on. I'd move that council direct administration to bring a revised council code of conduct bylaw to a future council meeting for first reading and include feedback received during this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, however, drought mitigation and preparation discussions. Mr. Fisher?
I don't last time, it's not good. Good evening, council. So I'm basically gonna walk through the briefing note that I attached. I've got 2 items on the agenda tonight, this one and then a second one that's actually very closely related. So if you guys didn't know, we're in a drought. It's pretty province-wide right now. In December, I think it was the very beginning of December, very late November, we received a letter from Minister Schultz, basically saying that the province is in a drought state. It's stage 4 out of a 5-stage step process. And in the letter, there's recommendations made to the towns, and this kind of went out to all communities in Alberta. But basically, take a look at your infrastructure and see how it might be impacted if water levels are where they're normally located. Start reviewing the terms of your licensing and know what's included, and where your priority stands kind of in your region. So the water licensing system in Alberta, with each water license, it's basically assigned a priority based on when it was awarded to an organization or community. And if we start getting into a water drought, the lower you are on the priority list or the more recent your license, they start cutting you off first. It's kind of a first come, first serve. And there's nothing really in the Water Act yet that they're working on it, that would allow them to reassign or change priorities based on the drought situation. So that was kind of item 2, just kind of know your license and know what's required. Be prepared to engage with the province as drought gets worse. If they have to implement any measures regionally or anything like that, be prepared to come to the table and talk with them and engage with them. And then kind of develop some water strategies for managing if you can't make as much water or if you're not allocated as much water as you historically be able to withdraw from your source. And other than that, one of the big things is kind of just engaging with municipalities because it's not all on the province. We're going to need to talk to the people who are using the water and change some habits potentially in the summer. So a large part of the briefing note that I've given you kind of give some background. So after we received this letter around the same time, the rivers for Alberta, there's a public portal where you can go and look at the data. You can look at the flows, historical information. It also, they post water advisories there. We're very familiar with it as a community, as administration. We go there, that's where our ice watches and all of those reports are posted. Starting late fall, in the fall, there were 51 water advisories in province throughout. Water shortage advisories, that should be specific in how they worded that, meaning that the water levels are not great. The water levels in the Peace River are the lowest that have been recorded since the year 2000. And I think that's just more, that's when they've got really good data. The data gets different prior to that. Different data are not as easy to correlate. So this is important for us, obviously. Not only do we make water for our residents, and we also provide water to our regional partners. We've got a couple water co-ops that we provide water to. The filling of Site C is currently planned for late fall this year. So this is very much on our radar. It was originally planned for fall of 2023 and it got postponed due to other issues, but this was something that was definitely on the radar when I started in September. I was confirming information for BC Hydro and working with them to make sure that things were in line. And then one of the other pieces that comes out of being in a water shortage and drought is obviously last summer we hosted a bunch of communities here. We're evacuated due to wildfires. I think that unless things change, these are all going to be continuing on through the year. In the briefing note, I've included a risk example, just a photo of our water intake structure. Basically, it's located down at the riverbank by our water treatment plant in Shaftesbury. The photo that I had taken, normally that structure would be underwater or very nearly submerged. Anecdotally from our operations team. At its lowest point last year, you could stand on top of the structure and see the bar screen in front of the water intake pipe and measure down to the water intake pipe. It didn't impact things at the time, but if it had dropped much further, we could have been unable to produce water at a maximum rate. So if we had depleted our reservoirs, we might not have been able to replenish them as fast as we would like. Normally, when we're dealing with a water break in a small area, we can take a truck out and deliver water or deliver water bottles. On a community-wide scale, that gets really challenging. For example, to keep up with an average day of water use, when I say average day, I'm talking in March when things are kind of low, dry, we're not dealing with seasonal water usage. Our water plant is producing on average 5,000 cubic meters of water per day. Our water truck would have to be filled once every 5 minutes to move that kind of volume around. It's not really practical. So if we have an issue with our water intake, we're gonna be working with the province to set up some temporary pumping and keep water going into the facility. But that might mean we're not able to make water as fast as we would like. So, the other side of the coin is you can make water, and then if you're challenged in making as much water as you would like, you have to kind of curb how much water gets used. So, I was really surprised when I started looking into things because I'm still pretty new to the community, but we've got, and it was attached to the report, a water conservation bylaw. This is an amazing piece to have in place already coming into this drought. Lots of communities aren't here yet. And when I was initially looking at this letter from the minister, I was prepared to be drafting the policy or bylaw and bringing it to you and trying to pass it. We've already got something that's in place, so that's really exciting. So basically the bylaw, the structure gives us administrative authority, either through council or through the CAO, to implement water restrictions as we deem necessary, especially if there's a provincial-wide drought. There are penalties in here, including fines, both for residential users and commercial users for not complying as we start implementing restrictions. There is, in one of the schedules, a very clear defined starting point on how to start implementing things. So if we can keep making water in our water reservoirs, we don't need to do anything, right? Keep going, business as usual. As soon as we can't keep enough water in our water reservoirs, whether that be for maintaining fire storage or anything like that, we can start ratcheting our water restrictions. So we can start adding odd and even watering to our residents. So we would put out a notice and say, okay, we're implementing odd and even watering. On an odd day, if your house number ends in an odd number, you can water. If you're an even day and your house has an even street number, you can water an even day. And not everybody waters, and that's fine, but it just gives us a starting point to start restrictions. As we start dialing it in or having more challenges with water restrictions, we can add more stuff. We can prohibit outdoor watering entirely, with only hand watering for residents. We can start adding like irrigation restrictions. So if there's automatic sprinklers, hey, you can use it in these times, so that we don't have so much draw during peak times. We can start turning down the water park. The water park is probably one of our biggest water users in summertime. And then we can ramp it up from there as we need to. And if there's a measure in the schedule that isn't in the schedule, the bylaw allows the CAO or the council to make a decision as to whether or not we want to implement it. And so when I found out about the bylaw, my initial thought process was maybe we need to tighten it up. And I actually don't know if that makes sense. I think where it is drafted right now makes a lot of sense to start with. And then if we start having to add more things, we're not just adding them unnecessarily, hey, this is a thought out process and we're not keeping up to where we need to be. Let's implement additional measures from here. So that exists. I'm not sure if everyone knows it exists. So one of the things that's really important is probably getting that out into the community. Part of communications staff is here. So he's gonna be working with this and helping us get that out. Really excited. When loading up his plate. So I think education is the number one thing here, right? Letting people know, getting the information out, letting them know that this is coming ahead of time. And letting them know, like, we really don't want to be doing this unless we have to be, and we don't want to do anything unnecessarily as we start increasingly have operating issues. Then the last part of my briefing note is a little bit on filling the Site C. So that is still currently planned for fall of 2024, as far as I know. It had initially been planned for fall of 2023. That was ahead of schedule. Fall of 2024 is their original project construction schedule. I'm not sure. I think that they will probably try to if they can, and it will be a very extreme scenario if they don't try and fill the reservoir this year. They have committed to remaining in communication with administration. So before they're even planning to do this, they'll be coming back to us and making sure that there are some things that are in place and making sure we're comfortable with the activities. We're one of the stakeholders that they're required to engage with. That's the town of Peace River. And they really want to make sure that we're not negatively impacted from their operations when they're filling the reservoir as much as they can. We'll also be making sure that the province of Alberta is brought into those discussions as well. I think when I started here, I was having administration to BC Hydro, but we'll also be looping in our rivers team going forward. Yeah, so it's mostly just an informational piece on the first briefing note here. Any questions?
Do you remember, any of the numbers when Site C was planning on filling the dam, the river was going to go down a little bit? Do you remember how much is it, a little bit?
It was already lower than they were predicting at the end of the season last year. So I think one of the things that I'm going to be asking for is an updated forecast.
And do our reservoirs, like, are they filled to 100% all the time, or what's the normal reservoir filling levels?
We normally try and keep them above 80%, I think. That's gonna naturally like change, right? If there's a lot of water use or water break or a fire in a given area in town, it might see a drop temporarily, and then try and fill it up. But I'd say normally we try and keep them above 80% operationally.
One of the seminars, maybe Deputy Mayor and I both attended, somebody was talking about this odd even watering of your lawn sort of thing. And they said initially that everybody kind of really watered their lawn well on their days. So water usage went up, but over time it actually did work itself out. I think it was Okotoks that has a lot of experience that way. Yeah. Councilors, questions? Councilor Ford?
As you mentioned, it's the lowest water level it's been since 1930.
2000 is what
Yeah,
the little report said.
Yeah, I was just looking at the picture of the water intake. Worst case scenario, is there, and probably be in the discussions with the upper people, is there an opportunity, if needed, to extend that intake pipe out into deeper water? If the river starts going down, do we have that opportunity?
I think that the province, as part of their recent funding announcement for Water for Life or Municipal Water Partnership, has allocated some money to water intake infrastructure. But that process is pretty slow. Like usually there's quite a bit of pre-work. So we wouldn't necessarily be in a position to do a permanent extension at this point in time because there's a lot of regulatory hoops to jump through. I think that if we had issues this year, we would be doing something temporary and actioning a permanent solution in the future.
Yeah, that was kind of my question. If in an emergency situation where the water level goes down, do we have the opportunity of putting like a 10 or 15-foot extension onto what's existing until such time as a more permanent solution can be done?
If it dropped further, like below the existing intake pipe, it's actually sloped towards our pumps. So, which is normal. And so if it is daylit, we actually wouldn't be able to just extend it. We would have to. We'd have to get some pumping, temporary pumping, and it's a wholesale kind of redesign.
Is our water license also has conditions? So is one of the condition, well, your intake is gonna be located where it's located sort of thing? Or not?
Usually it is to a section. It'll say you're entitled to a section here or a certain disposition. Disposition is an allocation of property from the province to the town. It's basically we release the riverbank from them for that. So we're limited sort of to whatever that description is. But where the end of the pipe is in the river is usually it's just a swath across the river. That's what we're allowed to. But it's not an easy thing to just change.
Do we know how old our water license is?
It's older than I am.
It's fairly young then, I guess. Which is bad in this case, actually.
We have a couple of licenses, but I think that the primary one is from the 80s when the plaque was built.
Any other questions, councilors? Okay, would someone like to move us along with a motion? Councilor Good.
Move the council accept the drought mitigation and preparation briefing note for information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Next up, Mighty Peace Watershed Alliance membership, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. So this one's related. So recently I had attended a session being held by Alberta municipalities. I think it was called something responding to drought in Alberta's north or something. That Mayor Manzer kind of shared information about our intake and our bylaw there, which is why I had some of this information prepared. But one of the presenters there was a member from the province, and the province is currently using the watershed planning advisory councils as a vehicle for bringing people together and coordinating sort of drought response efforts. And in the fall, we quit attending the local, the regional one, the Mighty Peace Watershed Alliance. There was a conversation that it was a little bit too much time and it didn't feel particularly valuable for the effort at that point in time. The question I had is if we wanted to appoint a member of council again to attend on behalf of the town, or if we wanted to appoint a member of administration to attend, both appear to be options in this watershed alliance.
I think it would be a good thing these days, more education the better, and as our drought conditions change, even in northwestern BC, the mountains and the rivers that drain into the lake that becomes the Bennett Dam and so on. There's issues there with the height of that lake, so we should be well aware of what we can do, both in terms of what's happening upriver from us. There's a couple of big projects, one on the Wapiti that's just got provincial approval or whoever they need approval from. And, that'll be taking water out of what comes to us. Downriver, we've got Northern Sunrise and CNRL and Mercer all kind of taking water intake after our outtakes. So all that big connection, and that's not saying anything about things that are off the main river stem, so. But that's my thoughts. Councilor Good.
I think one of the key lines in the background here is that basically it says province is indicated, I can get it right here. It's communicated that by the province that the watershed planning and advisory councils are being used as vehicles for planning, sharing information, and responding, which means they're being given a voice and influence. And for us not to have, at a minimum, an ear, at a maximum, a voice there, I think would be, not to have that, I think would be a real mistake. So I think, and it doesn't matter to me personally whether it's administration or a counselor, I'm fine with either. But I think we need to have somebody there who keep us informed and to represent our needs and our citizens, especially if they're going to be used in setting policy and response.
Maybe the province will even give them more money so they can operate in a good way. That is a problem. Any further comments on this one? Deputy Mayor?
I agree with Dawn 100%. I think this topic is going to become at the forefront even more, and it's important that we're part of the conversation and at the table. I agree that it doesn't necessarily matter if it's administration or council member, but I think someone should be at the table for sure.
Councilor Ford?
I 100% agree as well, but the question I have is, why can't we have a member of council and a member of administration attempt? Or are we allowed to do that?
They have their terms of reference and stuff, so maybe admin could investigate that before it comes back. If they wanted to.
In some of the other watershed alliance or advisory councils, that's sort of what would happen is the council member would be the official rep, and then I would attend as sort of technical advisory on our pieces.
So we could have a member of council and a member of administration attendance.
We might not have a say with both, but I think that
Like, you would only have the one vote, but can both a member of council and a member of administration attend that meeting?
I'll have to ask, but I think that that's not fundraising.
I also think that we should, if we go forward with this, also possibly put a little bit of money towards the effort to a couple thousand or so, just to help the cause. But any further discussion? Would someone like to put forth a motion on this one? Deputy Mayor?
I move that the council bring forward Mighty Peace Watershed Alliance membership to a future council meeting for a formal resolution regarding appointment of a member of council and administration.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Okay, next up is the, okay. Mr. Ford, help me with the acronym here.
Septic crime prevention through environmental design.
Crime prevention through environmental design initiative, Main Street flower planters with Still.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report to council this evening is in regards to the SEPTED project that was initiated by the Community Advisory Committee last year, I believe last spring, last summer. And we're bringing council an update on some progress and an opportunity for your input and direction on a particular item that has been an ongoing concern within the community for some time. One of the recommendations out of the SEPTED assessment had been the large planters on Main Street. There are two locations, one at, oh, here's the official addresses. I've never noticed that. The 101 Avenue, 100 Street and 101 Avenue and 100th Street and 100th Avenue. So literally at either ends of one of the blocks. Because of their size, the design of them, there's congregation and sitting on the planters. And part of their original design does look like that was seating was a component of them. Administration initially was suggesting looking at adding some sort of a barrier or fencing or something on to the planter. They are quite old. There is some concerns of potentially drilling into the solid concrete capping, whether or not it'd be able to withstand that. Because we have to put any sort of fencing on the outer edge Otherwise, if we put it in the middle, I don't think we would achieve what we were looking for. You'd still have a similar issue of being able to sit and congregate on the edges. Adding taller fencing, we ran into problems there. We need access still for weeding and so forth. Anyways, we've been around the fencing conversation quite a bit. We did also look into some signage, but really anticipate that it won't have the effect or outcome that we're looking for, also in that regard. So what we have, come to some of a conclusion and presenting for council's consideration this evening is removing those said planters, both of them. Not the median planters. This has been a confusion also, sometimes as part of the conversation. The planters on the median in the middle of the streets are staying put. But only these two specific planters at the, either end of the said block. We would, and I have been looking into replacing the planters because the flowers and the atmosphere that come with having some plantings in our downtown, I think is still important to maintain. So we've been looking into options for replacements. And I have found a number of options that are fairly speedy, 4 to 6 weeks. So there is potential we may be able to get a standard planter, but very large, round, or whatever shape that I find, and have planters replaced in their approximate locations, but they are a freestanding pot and quite substantive in size. They're not meant and could not be sat on, not comfortably anyway. And chances are they would not be a tipping issue because they will be quite large. And I am looking at styles that have water reservoirs in them just for efficiency, water conservation. And it's actually less time than for my staff who are actually watering these, or the contractor who's actually watering the current systems. Which also will add some weight to the structure and wouldn't anticipate them being easily tipped over. So we're presenting to council this evening, if you so choose, to direct administration to bring back to a future meeting for a formal motion of removal of these two structures and hopefully with replacement. If I don't want to jinx myself here, but I think we have some good options for replacement. Councilor Ford.
Yes, thank you. You and I had a discussion in your office about this earlier, and you actually showed me a document. Would you be able to share that document or those examples with the rest of the council?
This is what I have.
So that they can see what we were talking about?
If you're a gardener, they're very exciting. If you're not, then they're not as exciting.
They're hard to tip over.
Just a couple of options.
This will be coming back to council.
Yeah, right. This is just what she.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those.
And they would be quite large. We aren't looking for a small pot that you would normally purchase. These are quite large commercial products. They're not quite that large, but
You can't sleep in them.
Yeah.
I know the town of Olds has some big concrete type planters down their medians. One of their streets is a highway, and it's that kind of idea. They look quite nice, actually.
And we really are looking at the products that have a water reservoir in them so that there's some it's a self-watering process. They're much more successful in terms of keeping plants alive and also being much more conserving of our water products.
Councilor Good.
If I may, a quick question on these planters they have here. Are they three, like there's well, for example, one is 3 units, 3 separate, are they 3 separate units? Or are they 3 units that stabilize each other?
There's all sorts of different options. So I'm looking at, I just found one this afternoon they're actually a long rectangular unit. So we could have 2 together, you could have 3, but there are options that are, some that are joined, but they tend to be smaller. These larger versions are independent of each other, but they can be placed together as
Yes,
a grouping.
some of these.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying it is my first look at some of these is that with motivation.
Yeah, with the weight of the soil and weight of the water, you won't, I cannot move my smaller pots at home without using a proper dolly when they're full of soil and water. You'd have to have motivation of a very large group of individuals to.
Which we have.
So, well, for one thing, it does also maintain some of the beautification aspects of Main Street, which, you know, we want tourists, so we want something for them to look at sometimes too. Councillor Ford.
Yeah, just as a comment to Councillor Good's comments are, even though these are freestanding, you would still, upon the time of installation, if that's the way council chooses to go, let's say if you had 3 in a group, and they're large, you would still have the opportunity of attaching all 3 together somehow where you can't see. And it potentially would be one, you wouldn't move it.
I'll reserve judgment.
Thank you. Any other concerns, questions on this topic? Councillor Carr?
My only concern, I think they're beautiful. My only concern is, are they made of a product that cannot be smashed?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's the 2 versions I'm looking at. One is aluminum and the other is a plastic composite.
So
Because I agree with you.
garbage
Anything,
cans were
yeah,
smashed.
anything concrete equals
Yeah.
bits and pieces for some reason. I'm not sure why, but people
Okay.
like to have Adderall.
Looks like.
Okay, would someone move us along with the motion, perhaps? Councillor Ford?
Yes, I'd put thank you, Your Worship. I'd put a motion on the floor that council agrees in principle with administration's new approach with respect to the large Main Street planters and direct administration to bring this matter forward to a council meeting for formal resolution.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you, Still. Okay, next up, we have reports. The first one is Community Services Board meeting minutes of January 1st.
Your worship, the council member in attendance would be Councillor Scamahorn. In his absence, if anyone has any questions, I could provide some insight.
Okay, any questions of those report? Good, okay then, thank you. Next up, well, that's it, I guess. Okay, would someone move that council accept report 9-1 for information? Councillor Carr?
Sure.
Councillor Carr so moves. All those in favor? It is carried. Okay, we have the council communication package of March 22nd. I think we already reviewed part of this last week because I remember talking about the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators and our CAO Barb Miller receiving her 15-year award. But is there any other, someone would like to bring forth at this point? Okay. Yeah, no information package. So maybe someone would move that council accept item 10-1 for information. Councillor Good so moves. All those in favor? It is carried. Okay, key communication items. Anybody? Councillor Ford?
I think the 2 important ones to get out is the drought discussions and as well as the report that we received on the planters, because right now there's lots of chat or talk in town in regards to public safety and that kind of happenings that's going on in town right now.
Well, I guess the awareness is also that sometimes people just move further along the street somehow. So we got the planters, water conservation and the bylaw there. Anything else? Someone, yes?
it wouldn't hurt, our code of conduct is pretty important, I'd say that was.
Code of conduct. Out in the community, we've got the Navigators, Provincial B, tournament happening. We also seem to have Roosters shut down, so there's lots of people in town. Get to your restaurant early, I guess. Anything else? Yep.
The Peace Regional RCMP Advisory Committee is starting the Lock It or Lose It program in the very near future. We just will not tell you when and where.
Anything further? Okay. Okay, do you need a, short break? Okay, 5 minutes and then we'll come back and go into close. So at 6:11, we're back here. And should have introduced our new staff person. Yes, Daniel Stewart.
Stuart is our new communications coordinator, just started today.